Hi, I'm Frank and this is Frankly Rustic. Thank you for tuning in. Today I'd like to talk to you about dust collectors. I've made a video on it before on how to improve your dust collection with the canister filter, replacing your filter bag and having a canister filter. And I've glazed slightly in that conversation in that video about how there's other mods we've done and none are as effective as changing out your bag to a filter canister, and that remains true. Changing over to this will certainly be a night and day difference. You'll improve your air intake substantially. I would easily say double your flow. So your volume of air will definitely double. You'll get better suction power out of it. It's not going to be like a shop vac in a 4-inch port size, but it's certainly going to pull a good substantial amount of dust out of your high performance machines, whether it be a table saw, a planer, a jointer, a bandsaw, even your drill press, although I feel the drill press is overkill when you have a dust collector on that. There's so many other ways to collect dust off a drill press, but you can certainly pursue that direction if you want. But I do see a lot of mods from all of the woodworking community influencers out there. They're great videos. They provide some great videos, great tips, but once in a while they provide these tips that are really a marketing ploy to push something, or to push a product, or to push just another video out there, and the mod is really just hogwash. One of those is the cyclone. The cyclone dust collection mod certainly does separate the thick chunks into a canister, into a container, whether it be a 55-gallon drum, a PVC version of it, or a trash container, a trash can, or some cardboard version of a drum. All of those are these opaque, hidden hazards that collect large particles, which is never your problem in the first place. It's not going to prevent your filter, whether it be a filter bag or a filter canister such as this, from clogging up over time. Those fine particles will never get trapped through your dust cyclones. It'll certainly catch some of them, but not enough to make a substantial difference to modify your system. Furthermore, when you do modify to a cyclone system, and I've done many different kinds. I've used, and I don't want to name them actually because I don't want to hurt any businesses, but I've used many off-the-shelf solutions, we'll say, and built my own solutions out of 55-gallon drums, trash cans, all of them, done the fine baffling method, all of those. They do separate big chunks of dust. We'll call them big chunks, chips, fine dust, but it won't catch those powdery, fine, ultra fine versions of your sawdust. That will still get blown into your filter. None of that's going to be caught in the container. So what are you doing now? Now you're doing two things. You're cleaning out your filter bag, and you got to still empty out your container. And that container is a pure nuisance in my experience. One, you have to lug out now a 55-gallon drum or a 30-gallon trash can or whatever it might be, and it just leaves dust exiting across your workshop, and you don't see it. But it's a fine mist of dust just pluming out as you're leaving your workshop to get rid of all that. Not worth it. I also see a hazard using them. When you leverage a drum or a can or whatever it might be, you're hiding a potential hazard. And as much as it's not very common, it's very potentially there. And that is having a smoldering fire starting, and you'll never know it. If you are on your table saw and you're cutting some old, perhaps recycled pallet wood, and you catch a nail and didn't know it, you've just shot a spark into your dust collection ductwork. As it's passing through, you know that air, that high volume of air that's being blown with it, is feeding that little ember energy to get hotter and hotter, and then land into your canister, whether not your canister, your drum, whatever it might be, or trash can, only to sit there and smolder, and over time can be a potential fire. And as much as that's not been a large case, it's potential. I would not want to wish on anybody. So if you have that, you would never know you have a fire just brewing and waiting to ignite while you're going to bed. Perhaps you're a woodworker at night, you're moonlighting, and you do your work and you go to bed, you've done your thing, and meanwhile you're getting a little smoldering. You wouldn't know it because you did a great job sealing everything, which you should have. However, if you kept your system in its original state using the filter bags, the plastic bags to catch the dust, you can see right through it. You can see that it's becoming white. Oh, something is brewing in there. You're getting smoke. Let's clean that out. Let's see what's going on. Let's prevent a fire. You will not get that benefit if you just have an opaque system. You'll be stuck wondering, I hope everything's safe. Go to bed, next thing you know, your alarms, I hope you have smoke detectors, are going off and telling you something's gone wrong. Now, that's one of my biggest concerns, is safety, and I wanted to shed that light to you. However, my other issue with these mods is that they are not true mods. When I've had my drums, like I mentioned earlier, you have to lug this big thing out of your workshop, which if you're in a tight quarters like I am, is not easy. You've tried to make use of every square foot of your shop that you've only made space for you to walk. You didn't consider the fact that you might have to lug a 55-gallon drum around the zigzag of your workshop. And as you're banging onto little things you don't know, but you're just stirring up all of that micro dust into your workshop. It's annoying. The bags, they're cheap. You buy them on Amazon. I'm not going to come up with a price right now, but they are extremely cheap. You could buy certainly a half a dozen or more bags for a marginal price. I don't care if it's even $10 a bag, which it isn't. It's far cheaper. It's worth it. I get to get my air compressor when I'm I'd say about 3 weeks in of work, and clean out my air filter. I can see the dust falling into the bag. I know this is cleaned out as much as possible, going around the whole thing as much as I can. Then undo the latch, take the bag, immediately cinch it, and it's out the door without spewing micro dust particles everywhere. Quite an easy exercise. Putting a new bag on, very simple. The only mod I would say is very useful, other than the filter itself here, is the little magnets. These magnets that I've seen suggested by quite a few YouTubers out there is truly a good mod as well. When you need an extra hand, certainly take your bag, start putting the magnets on to hold the bag up, put magnets in the back until the bag's held up on its own. Then you can put your strap, tighten it, and cinch it in the right spot, and you're good to go. That's a mod that is effective and will always be helpful. This is a mod that will always be effective and be helpful. The mods of trying to improve your cleanup job is not truly going to be a mod. You're going to have less dust collection at your machines. You're going to be shooting more dust into your workspace, and you're going to wonder why you have to clean up your machines often when you think you're doing a good job separating the big chunks from the fine chunks. The fine chunks is still going to clog up your machine and perhaps eventually blow out a leak somewhere, because if this clogs up, the air has to go somewhere. You have a 1.5 to 2 horsepower dust collector. It's building up so much pressure. If this clogs up, it's going to blow something. At least with your bag, you could see, all right, this bag seems like it's going to blow. Let's clean out the filters. You got so much more warnings when you have a clear bag. You can see if something's awry as far as smoke and a potential fire. You can see if your filter's gonna need a cleaning so soon. You don't see that with a drum or anything of that matter. And you also have the benefit of increasing your airflow. I can't believe how much I've improved the airflow from my machines when I went back to just having a bag. The cyclone certainly, I don't know the exact number. I don't have the equipment to measure airflow, but if I was to guess, I would easily say double my strength. I've doubled the strength. And I know some of the YouTubers out there will agree with me, the major influencers. Some of them out there are suggesting to go back to a regular system, get rid of your cyclone system. That's what sparked my curiosity, safely sparked my curiosity. But what I did realize is some of them are still pushing the use of a cyclone, but warning you that if you're going to run ductwork, you don't use PVC without grounding things out, and you want to make sure you have no sparks because you could introduce a fire. Well, if you're worried about introducing a fire, what you want to see it happening, if it's the case, you want to see it building up, try to have some form of visibility in your system to know if there's a hazard in place. Aside from that, and having your filter and having your dust bag, it's just a cheaper and better system that you don't have to constantly grow and evolve with. One thing that I think we have to learn not to do is follow suit with all of the hype of these improvements without it being proven. I've fallen prey to them. I'm sure you have too. Some of you have as well. You don't want that to happen all the time. I'm learning more and more that certain things sound good to be true, but they're too good to be true. And then you're overlooking the obvious. I truly, genuinely overlooked the fact that there's a hazard. I can't see that there's potential fires, at, a risk of a fire in place. But one thing I did notice was every time I had to clean that drum out, what a headache. I regretted it. I actually think I subconsciously worked less so not to build up enough chips to have to clean out. But now I don't care. If this builds up to the point where it's half full, no problem. I have a bag waiting in my cabinet over there. It's a 5-minute task at most, and this bag could remain in the corner for all I care until I take it out the next morning or whatever have you. But I don't have to completely perform the clean out task from start to finish that evening. If I'm pressed for time and I'm working on something, I need to clean this out, otherwise I can't work any further. I have to really stop and clean everything out. Go outside, empty out the drum or the trash can, whatever I'm using as a cyclone collection system, and then come back and reassemble everything and hope I didn't stir up the whole place with dust, especially if you're finishing something. If you're finishing stuff, you don't want to introduce dust into the room. But if you have a bag and you find out at that moment the bag has to be changed, you can't do another thing, you can't plane another cutting board through your planer until you clean out all the chips out of the bag, don't worry. You've just wasted 5 minutes of your time to disengage this strap, take the bag, close it up with a tie strap, and you're done. Put a new bag on. I really can't give you any more advice other than that. I feel that we've been misled with all of this suggestions of going with cyclone filtration. I disagree wholeheartedly. My system has never performed so well ever since I reverted back from a cyclone. The first thing I did when I got a dust collector from Harbor Freight in this case was to go with the whole cyclone route. I didn't even know what the original strength of my machine was. I didn't know its potential until I reverted back to its original state. Now, granted, I didn't go back to its completely original state. I did do the improvement in which I kept the motor very close to the canister side, the collection side, where the filter is. I got about 6 inches of hose there, and that's all it has to deal with. This is not on the bottom with the hose bent up. It isn't. If it is that way, it is not going to really cut substantially, but it's certainly an improvement. And the rest of my ductwork is a 4-inch PVC system. My machines are all within, I would say, 8 to 12 feet proximity of each other that required a dust collector. So my bandsaw, my table saw, my planer, my jointer, these are all within proximity. So my PVC pipe is a single manifold coming down, bending an immediate 90 degrees after 2 feet, and it's about, I would say, 7 feet long with a bunch of T's. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 T's. I'm sorry, 4 T's. That's it. The amount of power that comes out of all of the ports when I have the blast gates open and closed at the right one is intense. And you won't get that from your cyclone system. I'm sorry, it's just not. You're adding more friction to reduce your airflow, and it's just not worth it to do all that to separate the chips from the fine dust. I don't see it worth at all. I would rather have the fine dust fall in the bag or get caught up in my filter, which I can just blow simply with my compressed air safely. You don't want to blow too close and blow the bag open, but the paper open, but certainly blow it out. And you could see it all fall. You'll see it stop falling. You'll know you cleaned out your filter. You take your bag out, you're done, and that's it. It couldn't be easier. You have all the strength that your dust collector can give you. You have an easy clean out, and you don't have to spend money or time building a cyclone system that really isn't going to benefit you. It's an opinion, don't get me wrong, but it's an over experience. And I do see woodworkers out there going back and suggesting to revert back to the solution of its original design. I've even seen some, I'm not going to name names, woodworkers come up with solutions to make bag exchange different, using buckets and donuts and all that. It's not worth it. Don't do it. It's certainly a solution to save using these bags, but the amount of savings is negligible, and the work it takes to overlap bags and pull it out and cinch them is just not worth it. It's going to cause dust no matter what. If they're stating it's not going to cause dust, they are lying to you. Dust that comes out of this is so small, you're not going to see it all. It's kind of like compound dust when you're doing sheetrock work. That stuff is microscopic, but when it lands, you see it everywhere. The same with wood dust. It's going to be everywhere. So minimize the effort, minimize the amount of dust that comes out by going back to the old system. Use the bags, upgrade to a canister filter. That is the only suggestion I want to keep in place. I have a video I'll link to one of these side corners that I suggest you getting. It'll save you a ton of money. And that's it. You're good to go. You'll save yourself from any potential harm as far as fire. You'll save yourself headaches when you're cleaning out your system, and you could continue working throughout your evening without being sidetracked with having to clean up a special solution that's not doing any benefit to you other than filling the pockets of those who have a patent in place to give you something you think you need, if that makes sense. I hope this is helpful. If it is, please subscribe, like this video, and leave your opinion. If I have something wrong, heck, I would like to improve my system, but I do not want to improve my system for another hype. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. Perhaps you're agreeing with me, or you disagree, or you want to see something else researched. I would definitely do that for you as well. And that's really it. Thanks for visiting. Be safe. Take care.